Hello, my name is Dave Shruga. I am a registered psychotherapist here in Colorado, and also I am a full provider for domestic violence counseling, and I'm working on a couple of additional accreditations. I identify myself as a heterosexual male and an ally to the community. Why I'm doing this today is for me and to express and to extend my talents to help the community out. At one point in my life, I was very homophobic. I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and when my parents divorced, I moved over to a small town in south central Michigan. In this area, there were many people that were highly homophobic, very, very racial, and basically the setting was at least 20 years before the time everybody was stuck in. Through my teenage years, it was normal for us and my friends to have homophobic slurs and to put down this community out of fear. I followed the path of that, and as time went by, I started to see the harm of this behavior going towards the other members of the community. Until I was about 19 to 20 years of age, a good friend of mine came out to me and stated that they were questioning and they identified as being homosexual. That hit me home very, very hard, of stating I need to look deeper into my soul, to look at the pits of my fear, and to extend my levels of empathy towards him. This person was like a brother to me, and I felt so guilty of carrying this ignorance for so many years. As moving forward, I worked in a juvenile home as a director for about 17 years, and I had numerous of juvenile clients come to me sharing their identity, their questioning. They felt secure and safe sharing with myself and giving them the direction and the support that they needed. I moved out here to Colorado about 2012 and started to getting back into the helping process and the helping system, and started to do training for domestic violence work. Currently right now I am working with same-sex clients, homosexual, lesbian, GLBTQ population. And I'm finding great success in extending out to service this community and finding great success for their treatment and their change and assistance. I would truly give them the advice is to self-explore into themselves before they help this individual out. They may have the heart to help the person, but to learn the skills, to understand where the client is coming from and what their background is, to do no harm, and especially to service them onto a greater level. Also, I would advise them to reach out to community services to learn the skills to work with this population and community, that no harm will be done. Some warning signs is one of the main factors I would indicate is between the partners is outing them. If one person or one partner is out or not, that is a huge indicator and a huge red flag and danger point that would promote a domestic violence incident between same-sex couples. Additionally, as well, violence is violence, and it does not matter whatever the pronoun is or whatever you identify as. But that is one of the most common bases that I would state as a red flag, is if there's dysfunction between the couple and one couple's member is out or they are not out. And this would draw a great instance and great chance for violence to occur. The first and foremost is safety. Knowing that they have a safe place to come, that they are not going to be judged, they are not going to be ridiculed, that they know that they can come in and talk to the staff, and knowing that nobody will judge them for whom they are, what they identify as, and being into a total support system and network to prevent them from any further harm or ridicule that they would face from the outside or family. I say treat the client as an individual. Do not treat the identification. Accept them for who they are. And also get rid of your bias. That we all have an inner fear or insecurity that we have approached at one point, or there's a fear that avoids it. So that's something that I had personally focused and trained myself working with the juveniles and now working with the adults, of checking myself, where's my levels of bias, and eliminating them. And if I had a question, it is best to discontinue and not have any possibility of harm done to the client from bias or personal bias or exterior bias. The first and foremost, empathy. We must connect with our clients, understanding their story, taking our bias out of it, being open, be acceptance, be willing to learn. For myself, I'll state here is being an ally as the community. I have many great resources and friends that I lean on whenever I have a question. So they can allow me to be, first off, a better clinician, second off, to be a better man in the community, and tricely, of being a better citizen, of passing this off as a network to my heterosexual friends and other friends that are in questioning, of using greater level of empathy to understand where the person's coming from and not to judge. Initially, I would say to discontinue the treatment with the client if a staff has bias against a client, because that will do harm to the client in the long run and destroy a therapeutic stance and their perception of therapy. Also, that can possibly lead any other hidden issues within the client for them to do self-harm or to harm others or anything like that, to be into danger. Then with the staff member, I would highly recommend them to attend treatment sessions or training sessions that would educate them onto a further base to understand the community, what are the confines of the community, how to work with the community appropriately and effectively, and also lastly for them to research and look into themselves if they're looking into countertransference or transference of behaviors that may trigger their behaviors towards the client or the community as well. Once again, the creed is in therapy to do no harm. And if you feel that you're doing harm or it's over your spectrum of professionalism, it is time to cancel or step aside of that therapeutic relationship and hand it over to somebody who is willing and competent at that time to work with the client. Sit them down and ask them, what are you comfortable with? What is your spectrum of professional treatment? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And when in doubt, never engage into something that you have a half heart or a half faith in your training and treatment and in yourself to work with this population or to work with this client. If you have one seed of doubt, it is best to stop, back away, and then come back to a supervision basis and talk about that, and to get training, to get support networks, and to allow them to reassess if they want to engage into this population or with this client's situation as well. It's their choice if they want to open up or not. Sadly, we have prejudice throughout the world still today. And there are some communities that are more open and willing to be acceptance of this population and other populations. But it mainly is up to them if they want to lower their guard, to open up their heart, and to really look deep inside of their souls of what are they fearing, why are they fearing this. And another important aspect is empathy. Is understanding, putting themselves into the other person's body and shoes, looking through their vision, looking through their eyes, looking through their history, if they want to. We cannot make another person do anything. But on the other side of it, we can allow them to take a flavor, to take a taste, to see a visionette of what the other individual is going through. And when I was going through the training to do the same gender domestic violence treatment, I had to go through a special training, and there was a movie that it really impacted me deeper of turning over if the world was predominant for the LGBTQ population and heterosexuals were in the minority, and how that affected the characters in the story. And I share that with my friends, my peers, and coworkers for them to be understanding and much more empathetic of others, and especially the LGBTQ population. Initially, when I get the paperwork come in and I see and review the paperwork, but when I meet with a client, I initially ask them, what do you address as? What is your pronoun? And who and how, please forgive me around that, let me remind myself, what would you like me to address you as, and what is your name? So I understand all of their identification and know how I can work with this individual. And also I allow them to share with me what they're comfortable with, what they identify, and where their parameters and boundaries are at. Initially, I speak with the client of indicating and asking them the information they had identified with their permission or the referral source. If they had identified by their legal name, or if they had informed their caseworker of what they identify and what they are identifying with in their name. First and foremost is that to build that bond and therapeutic bond and respect with the client. Secondly, I discuss with the referral source of if they are adamant about calling them by their name, legally I'll have to identify by that, but I will add in a caveat of stating with the client's permission that this is what they're identifying at and they're in a degree of transition. I would initially tell the clinician is take time to check yourself and get your ego out of it, because we as clinicians, we do not know everything. I tell my clients openly, I don't know anything and I don't know everything, but I know some things. But I make it clear to the clients and even the clinician is that we must drop our ego and we must reach out to be educated. And it's not about us. It's about our clients coming to us, either they're referred or come by voluntarily. It is up to us to provide that client the 100% services that they need and our talents to provide to them. In this field, it's a perpetual training system and trainings that we need. And to be an efficient clinician, we must keep in our mindset, it's not about us, it is about how we can facilitate to the client and what resources and support networks we can get to facilitate to the client the best. I just want to say that working with this population has been a blessing to me. This was one of my major thorns in my sides throughout my life that I had to pull out in a mountain to climb. For my therapeutic stance, we're human first, and then whatever comes after is what we identify as. We are one race, one love, and to allow myself to provide into this community is a blessing to myself, and also it's allowing me to grow to a higher level. With myself, whenever I feel a fear of anything, could be spiders or could be whatever it could be, which I'm not afraid of spiders, but it's like use an example. But my mentality of fear is whenever I have an insecurity or fear, I am not going to run away from it. When I was a young man, I ran away from many fears. This is one of my fears that I ran away from. But I will never run away with fear again in my heart. I'm going to embrace anything that I feel insecure with. And that's something I'd like to share onto my clients as well. We all have insecurities, we all have fears, but fear, it takes life away and it takes our happiness away. But for myself, this is my 30th year of martial arts study, and one thing that I learned from my martial arts study is to never pull away from a threat. When we pull away from a threat, the threat's going to be coming at us. But working on ourselves, working on healing ourselves to embrace the threat and to never pull away from the threat. And that's one of the most beautiful things that I had found working with this community is allowing myself to grow, to not pull away, not to judge, but to get closer. Whenever I have a question or I see something I don't know, I'm researching it or I'm talking with some of my friends and resources that I'm truly blessed with to have in my life and to support my education to facilitate better to others and to support them.